thank you for being here. Today we have Katelyn Dominelli, and uh, we also have from my office Kate Connor. That's a little confusing. I don't know why I did that. Kate and Caitlin. But today we're going to talk about flips. Um, I think aren't for the faint of heart. They're more difficult. They're not as exciting as they have on HGTV. But I understand, Caitlin, you and it's your husband, right?
Yeah,
You guys have done a few of these suckers.
we have. So we just closed on our 16th investment property last week. So I'd say we're seasoned at this point. But
How many years?
so we started in 2016,
Oh,
just dabbling in it. And then he was still working full time at the time at his regular job. And then in 2020, he quit his full time job and we went all in.
aside from this, you are an agent, and where are you an agent? Give
Yeah.
us your credentials.
So I'm a realtor at Keller Williams. In 2017, I got my license just for our business. So I was an investor first, and then the next logical step was to become an agent. And I really didn't expect anything of it because I still kept my full-time job that actually I still have outside of all of this. So outside of the real estate world, I'm also the chief operating officer of a large privately owned psychiatric practice, and I have been for a long time. So I
Explains why you do well in real estate.
wow,
A
yeah, they really parallel each other.
lot of cycles.
Well, there's a lot of psychology in sales, and you're helping people through the biggest transaction of their life, which by default brings up emotions. And I've really fallen back on my psychiatric training many times throughout this process. So um, I still really like that job. I'm not willing to give it up no matter how successful we become because it's just something that I feel like I was meant to do. So I keep doing it. So we do both now, and my husband runs the business full time. So we have the real estate investing business, and then he also owns a remodeling company
Oh,
outside of
okay.
that. Yeah, so he does private contracting jobs in addition to our flips and rentals. So we have our hands in a lot of stuff. And he's actually opening another business pretty soon here as well that's relative to what he does because obviously we're crazy. So,
Perfect couple like that.
yeah, we're
Okay.
both just very driven, which is good because you really have to be to do this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. Uh, I guess one of the questions that we have, or many people have, is how do you select a flip? And I'm saying, how do you select a flip right now in 2024? Uh, I flipped quite a few homes myself. Uh, I know people think that, oh, anybody can do it. You just go buy a house. Uh, I've seen people over improve them. What is your method to your madness? How do we start? What are you looking for first?
So you brought up a good point. I want to start by literally looking at everybody and saying, I'm sorry if I made this look easy. It is not easy. Like you see on social media, the big wins. You see us just do it and it looks so effortless. But just like anybody else that's good at something they do, I mean, Tiger Woods playing golf, an Olympic gymnast doing the balance beam, they make it look effortless because they're good at it.
Right.
And when you're good in this industry, you probably make it look a lot easier than it is, and it's not. So there's my disclaimer. And anybody that says to me, I want to get into this, I want to be an agent, I want to be this, that's the first thing I say to them. We make this look easy and it's not. So that's the very first thing that you need to know. How do we find a flip, assess a flip? It just depends. Some of them we buy on market, off market. We have people reach directly out to us now, knowing what we do, and say, hey, I'm selling my dad's house that passed away. Would you be interested in taking a look at it? It's a numbers game at the end of the day, period, end of story. I think what most people don't realize is you make all of your money in a flip on the purchase, not the sale. So if you purchase it wrong in the beginning, you're already done. That's where we really need to be smart about assessing a deal. In the beginning, when we did this, it took us days. Like I had these spreadsheets developed that I plugged all my numbers into to see if a deal worked. I mean, we would spend hours analyzing a deal. And we're at the point now, I'm not even kidding you. We walk into a house, we only spend 5-10 minutes. We know before we pull out of the driveway if we're buying it. So the numbers work or they don't. If you're trying to make the numbers work, they don't work. Walk away. So I'm very particular about what we buy. Um, I don't try to make something work that's even close, like, oh, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. Like it works or it doesn't. And that's always been our formula and it's served us well.
That being said, I'm still looking for some particulars. Like, really, what are you looking to sell a house for? I mean, you can say it's all about numbers, but I'm guessing you don't have $2 million.
Right.
So you're not going to buy a house. Like, what are you looking for your sweet spot of how much money do you really want to have in a deal?
So I would say one of the big things is when we're in a certain area, so we do a ton in Lawrence County.
Okay.
What is the average price point in that area? What are my buyers buying at? What are they looking for? And they're all in that 150 to 200,000 suites.
Okay.
So if I can find a flip that I know ends in that price range, I have a huge buyer pool.
Gotcha.
We did one in Zilly, and that was a higher price point, so we could go higher on that. The one that we did that, and I wouldn't say we struggled to sell it, but you just have a much lower buyer pool, was over 300,000.
Okay.
And there wasn't as many people buying a house at that price point, so the competition really isn't there. So on that particular house, we had one offer, which is fine, but again, you're just really narrowing down
Yeah.
pool at that point, and that was a while ago. So prices have risen since then, but that $150,000 spot where we're at it's a great place to end.
So that being said, that means that's a pretty tough buy these days with the cost of kitchens and
Yes.
whatnot. I mean, what are you expecting if you sell a property for 150? Where do you feel comfortable with money you have in it?
So I try to run a pretty decent spread. I don't ever want our profit to be less than like 35 to 40,000.
Okay.
That's kind of a good spot for the time and effort and things that we put into it. That's really where it needs to be for us. We've done ones where we've made a lot more, and we've done one or two where we've made less. Yeah, and thank God we've never lost money because again,
That's great.
yeah,
A lot of flippers can say that.
yeah, and our luck may run out someday, but I try to run deals on worst case scenario. And for me, worst case scenario is actually breaking even because
Okay.
I don't even want to think about losing money with the time and effort that we have in something. It doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
So for me, worst case scenario would be a break even, and I run the numbers out. Where would we be on this to break even? And then I make sure that theoretically we're nowhere going to be near
Are
that
you
number.
are you when you say you want to make that, $30,000 range, does it matter if you're selling a $150,000 house or if you're selling a 300? Are you still working on the same, not percentage? It sounds like you're working on a dollar amount.
Right. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, we want to make a certain percent off the
Right,
flip."
right.
I don't do that. So
Okay.
the one that we sold for 300,000, we didn't make any more than some of the other ones. The flip that we made the most on, I resold for 150,000 right on the nose, and that was the one that we made the most on.
Yeah.
So it just really depends. I don't really care about how much the purchase price of the house is or what we're going to resell it for versus what are we actually going to make on it.
Yeah, and I think that's actually so that's your formula to a certain way. You
Yeah.
know how much money you want to make, not a percentage, because everybody looks at this different.
Right.
And I know there is less money in this than what some people think there
Oh,
can
yeah.
be. I always laugh. People go, oh, they bought this for 25,000. They just sold it for 170. I'm
I
like, do
know.
you have any idea how much money they put into it? It
Right.
wasn't straight profit.
Right.
And how much time did they have holding the property?
Right.
And you took a risk.
Right. And holding costs are very expensive. And this is my husband's job.
Yeah.
Like this is his job. So this is his income. So of course he's going to make money doing it. And back when we started, I think we were putting maybe, I don't know, 35, 40,000 into a house and that worked. And then over the years it started becoming like 50 to 60,000. I think the last house we ended up putting 90,000 into, and the one we're about to do I know needs about 100,000. So the cost of materials has just
Right.
gone crazy. I mean, absolutely everything. Like we used to be able to do a whole house of windows for about 7, 8,000, and now it's around 15,000. We were putting on roofs for 10,000, and now they're 15, 16,000.
Right.
So it's really, you have to keep up with what's going on because the numbers change. Every single deal we do, the numbers change.
Do you guys not, and I know we're talking about flips,
Mm.
but do you also have rental properties too?
We do.
Okay, so do you walk into a property assessing, hey, we could go either way with this, or is
Yeah.
it, or you when you're on the hunt for something, you're on a hunt for one thing, or are you open-minded about everything you go into?
So I'd say we're open-minded about everything. For me, a flip, it's better if it's a complete gut job. I don't want to just do a little bit to something and then try to resell it. That's not really a flip. That to me is a rental. So if I can buy something and just put, 10,000 into it, that's a rental. I would
Okay.
say for a flip, it needs it. I prefer it to need a lot of work because it's actually easier to just start brand new, gut everything, know what you're dealing with, redo everything and do it correctly, than try to hodgepodge what somebody else has already touched. That's not a flip to me. Like people who go in and just sprinkle a little bit of cosmetics here and there.
Lipstick on the pig.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, that makes me so mad when people do that. And what I have found is, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, but honestly, what I have found is people who live here and invest locally are some of the better flippers because they're the ones that are invested in their community. They live here, they see you in the community, they know who bought the house. They really spend the time and effort to do it right. Where I see people not care is a lot of these out of state investors who think buying a house here for $30,000 is a deal, right? Because where they live, you can't touch a house for that price. You can't even get a vacant lot for that price. So they think it's a really good deal and they don't really care who goes into that house or care about the community. So it seems like they do everything not the right way. And that gives all of us a bad name. So that's always been a huge frustration of mine is people who give the rest of us a bad name. I just wish that they would go away. Because there's a lot of us that are doing it right
Right.
and doing it well.
Right.
And it gets overshadowed by some awful stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely see that in the title side where they're
Yes.
trying to purchase things, they're not using their own money. That's the next thing I want to ask you. Um, are you guys at a point that you're using your own money, you using hard money, you using equity from your house? What the heck are you doing for?
All the above.
Okay.
So this is great. When we first started, so actually I should just tell this story to make sense. So when we first started, we wanted to build an addition onto our own house and
Okay.
we were hiring someone else to do it. And we took a home equity loan out on our house, got the money, put it in the bank, started calling tons of contractors. Well, that's when we learned nobody really calls you back. Some people call you back, show up, but then that's all the further they go. I think we went through this for a few months and we found one person to kind of give us a quote, but it didn't really seem like he was going to do it. So we're like, this is really weird. So the money sat in the bank for months, like waiting to build our own, addition. And I looked at my husband one day, and we had always very loosely discussed doing this. And I said, what if we took that money and flipped a house instead? And then kind of turned it into more money and just saw,
So this is your
what.
fault.
Yes, but he agrees to my
Okay.
so he just does them to shut me up. You have to ask him. It goes one of two ways. He either just doesn't, so I shut up, or he also thinks it's a good idea. I'm not really sure back then.
Either way, he's the smart guy.
Which it was, yeah. So we did it, and we only had pretty much enough money to buy the first house. And then we maxed out every credit card we have renovating it.
You believed in this though.
We did, and I
Yeah.
believed in him. I think he believed in me. We knew that we had
Right.
the grit to do it. We knew we weren't going to just quit and walk away, but there were a lot of sleepless nights on that first flip. There was a lot of like, what have we done? So we sold that one, made some money, but still not enough where it was like we could just go in all on our own. So I thought we got to get creative with this. So I actually owner financed the next one. And I presented a deal to this guy where I said, hey, if you carry this while we flip it, we'll give you a portion of the profit at the end. So then you'll make more money because
Creative
this house
financing.
has a lot of problems. And surprisingly, he didn't even know who we were, but he went for it. That was a life-changing deal. That was the deal that opened every single other door, every opportunity. That house attracted us a ton of attention. What happened next was people started actually offering us money. Hey, can I invest in your business? I have some money. And then the hard money lenders started coming after us. Hey, what are you doing? So we found a hard money lender that we use sometimes that I love.
Okay.
We still use him to this day sometimes. And he met us the first couple times. He used to come out and see our deals, make me send him comps.
You explain hard money lending.
Yeah,
So
so
people, because I laugh. A lot of people just throw these terms out, and I think half the agents don't even know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah.
So what is a real hard money lender, real quick?
So a hard money lender is a private financer. They're not backed by a bank. They or their partners have money that they lend people at a much higher interest rate than you would go get a loan from a bank. So you're talking like 11, 12, 13, 14% loans. And they only lend for 12 months, and you have to give them their money back in 12 months. And I will tell you, nothing will rattle you more than the first time when you do it and you're sitting at the closing table and you sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure right at the closing table. And it's like, if you default on this, we own everything. Here you go, have some money. So, I mean, you have to be really good at what you do. But at the same time, the good hard money lenders, they'll run you through the ringer too. Like they're not just going to give you money because you asked for it.
So to simplify that for everybody, so what's happening is when you're signing the loan docs for this, they are having you execute a deed back to them, and they're holding that in case you miss payments or payment possibly.
Yes.
And they're going to record that deed and take whatever work or money you put into the house.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah, so you don't mess with these people. Like
Okay.
there's a real mutual respect when you go into this. And we like to use hard money if the numbers work, because again, it's expensive, but if the numbers work, I'll use it because then it frees up our money. Because if I have all my money tied into a deal, I can't buy another one.
sure.
So we will use them just to make sure that we have the money to still keep buying more deals if we come across them.
Sure.
But our hard money lender now, I haven't seen his face for probably 4 years at least. Like I just email him and I'm like, hey, I found a deal. Here's the numbers. And he's like, cool. And we'll just give you a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But again, total mutual respect. He knows that I'm extremely analytical. He knows that I don't make bad deals.
So they're not asking you, because I know some of them we've dealt with, they actually want to see what are you investing, what do you plan on doing. They're not really. So right now you're to the point that these hard money guys, they're not even questioning what the heck you're doing.
No.
Okay.
At first he did. I mean, he definitely came out and met us for the first time, walked the deal, wanted to know exactly what skin we had in the game. He came out several times throughout the renovation to make sure we were making progress. He did that like one or two times. And then I'd say since then, I haven't seen him. He has a lot of trust in us, and I have a
Good.
lot of trust in him, as well. So it's a really great relationship. I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, I mean, people don't think about, it's not just a flipper risking money, but it is these hard money guys.
Yeah.
I know I've lent money personally to a real estate agent to do a flip, and I was not a good investor. I didn't really ask any questions, and needless to say, I've never got paid back. So, um, yeah, I can definitely see what if this person has become very comfortable with you,
Yeah.
they know that you're good for it.
And we've had a lot of friends and family invest, just again because it's easier to use someone else's money than our own to keep our
Sure.
stuff freed up. And I've turned people away because as the market got real shaky and people's IRAs and 401ks weren't doing well, I had several people reach out to me and ask if we could invest at a better rate than their 401k. And I'm going to tell you right now, the answer is yes.
Mhm.
I can absolutely invest your money better than your 401k.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have too many people trying to give us money. Isn't that weird? Like in the beginning, it was like we maxed out everything we had trying to figure this out. And now we legitimately have too many people that try to invest in our business at this point. So we kind of just pick and choose, who we keep around at this point. And honestly, it's the people who believed in us in the beginning. Those are the people that I keep around because those are the people that took a risk on us then. So it's only
Sure.
fair that they're the ones that are still involved.
Sure. Okay. I didn't mean to derail you. I just wanted to explain hard money because I know that
Yes.
there's a lot of agents in the industry that deal with just residential that don't understand what hard money is. And I know they're seeing offers coming over and they don't understand even to explain to their client, oh, this person is purchasing this with hard money. So after you now have this money that you sometimes you're using someone else's or yours, what how many projects are you willing to take on? How easy is it to find a project? um, or do you wait for them to come to you now?
Both. So we have gone, I think the longest drought we went without something was a year, which again is okay because my husband is also a private contractor. So he
Sure.
was out doing all kinds of other stuff in that year. But I won't force something to work. And there was all kinds of things that came up in that year that I just said no to. And he loves flipping. He would so much rather flip than anything else. So I think he gets frustrated when there's not a deal to be had, but I won't make it work just because. And I would say two at a time is the most that we would do
Okay.
just because of holding costs. It doesn't make sense to me to just sit around and bleed on holding costs
Yeah.
because you're doing too much. So two at a time is the most that we've really taken on.
So give me the biggest, I don't want to say failure, but surprise that you thought that you had the numbers worked out. What was the biggest punch you've received in the gut?
Wow.
Because you can't see behind all the walls. You don't know what's under the ground sometimes.
I would say so honestly, again, we've been very lucky because when I calculate numbers, I calculate them pretty catastrophically. So there's nothing that I've really thought, oh, this is going to kill us.
Okay.
I will say though, the biggest oh my God moment I've ever had is we had a tree fall through a house.
No biggie.
So, like, when you watch these things on HGTV and you're like, this is so fake, it's scripted because every episode there's some big, like, moment where you're rolling your eyes. No, that's real. That happens every single time. We joke that, like, this would be it. This would be the climax of the episode because
Yeah.
something crazy happens. So, for us, it was a tree fell through one of our houses. Like, legit fell through it and just like fall on it. Like it wiped out. Yeah, it was
At what stage were you? Were you
so it was actually a rental. And I love the tenant that's in it. She is a sweetheart. I absolutely adore her. And she calls me, this is a horrible story. So she calls me bawling her eyes out and she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what? And she's like, tree fell through the house. I'm like, why are you sorry? Did you push it through the house? I'm like, not understanding what's going on. It was back in, I think it was 2019. We had this huge windstorm and it did damage everywhere.
Mhm.
And she was like hysterical. And here's the horrible part. And this is where sometimes I hate this business. That day, I was also putting my dog to sleep. So this was like my soul dog, too, right? This was like my dog. And I had taken the day off work to spend the final day with him. And the vet was coming to our house that night at 6 o'clock to put the dog to sleep. And now I have a tree that just fell through a house. So I'm totally derailed from what's going on. I go to her house and I had been obviously crying all day. My eyes are all red and swollen. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I'm not crying because of that. I'm putting my dog to sleep. And there's like bricks fell through the house. The kitchen's destroyed. The fan's hanging. The stove's broke. Like mass chaos in this house. So I had to stop and deal with that in the middle of this, real life situation I was having. So I will say that is the one thing that I hate about this.
Mhm.
It's one thing to be responsible for your own house. It's another thing to be responsible for 10 others at the same time. And so like we're never off. Like vacation isn't vacation. Like you're always getting a call. Um, a tree's falling through the house the day that the dog's dying. So it's I'd say that was the moment that punched me in the gut the most because I was like, first of all, I was in a panic that I'd never had to file an insurance claim up until that point for
Okay.
rental property. And people were telling me it's not going to be covered. They're like, acts of God aren't covered, not the insurance people, like other investors were
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you're screwed. And I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna like really be bad. But I have a great insurance agent and he does investment properties. That's all he did. So he knew exactly what
So you were
coverage with
insured
insurance.
properly.
We were totally insured. They paid 100% of
Oh, that's
every single
awesome.
damage. Very easy. I know a lot of people have insurance horror stories, but it wasn't. It was very easy. The claims adjuster was great. They paid us right away. Everything was taken care of. So it could have been catastrophic though.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think it ended up being like $35,000 in damage.
Well, even that right there, it was you picking the right insurance agent too.
Yeah,
So that was ahead of time because you could have picked the wrong guy. You might have got you may have been saving money
yeah,
with your premium, but you may have found out that it could have been
yeah,
very expensive situation.
yeah.
So, well, what finishes are you looking to do in a house? Like, all right, let's say 200,000 in your area.
Mhm.
What are people looking for that you know they're looking for that you know is going to sell a house right now? For $200,000, what are you and your husband doing to a house?
And kitchens and bathrooms.
And when
They
you
have to
say
be.
kitchens and bathrooms,
Mhm.
what finishes are we talking about?
So, I mean, you have to do granite counters, you have to be doing stainless appliances. It, honestly, higher end, but you don't have to go crazy on it. It has to look good. We don't do cheap anything in kitchens or bathrooms. That's
Okay.
that's really where, and I spend a lot of time, and my husband spends a lot of time thoughtfully designing those because we don't like a lot of stuff ends up looking kind of cookie cutter, but I always make sure something is fancy, something sets it apart, whether it's the vanity or the lighting. He's real into all the Bluetooth stuff right now. So the bathroom we just did has like Bluetooth mirror, Bluetooth speakers in the ceiling because everybody wants to listen to their music when they're showering. So
So if I walked into one of your flips, is there something signature that I know that you guys were there?
So for me, it's light fixtures.
Okay.
That's the one place where I will not cheap out.
Okay.
I'm super obsessed with light fixtures.
Purchase them.
So it depends. I get a lot of them from Menards. I get a lot of them just online on Amazon. once I find something I'm looking for, then I stick with that
Okay.
pattern. So my light fixtures throughout a house, they all come from the same theme.
Gotcha.
So I will usually find one light fixture that I'm super obsessed with. It's usually like the dining room chandelier. And then I base every other light fixture off of that. And I put a
Really?
lot of thought into that, and people always comment
What
on our light
what color are we
fixtures.
into right now?
It totally depends on the design. We toggle back and forth between the black and white and gray that everybody's super into, but I like doing a rustic design every once in a while, so the fixtures are always indicative of the design.
Do you have a custom paint color that goes in almost every home? Because I know that there's a bunch of people that do.
So yes and no. Oh, my husband hates it. He hates repeating the same anything. And I'm like, but that's what people like. If you say the words agreeable gray, he will cringe. Like he just,
So are we still in gray? I don't know because I'm getting
yeah.
behind the times.
So yes, we're still in gray, but there's a lot of blues that are starting to come around
Yeah.
right now, but they're just I was real hot on alpaca for a long time. Alpaca is like a grayish color.
Okay.
Accessible beige was our beige color, but every
Is that the
time,
color that when I look at it with one thing it looks beige and another thing it
yes,
looks gray?
yes,
Okay. I kind of know what the heck you're talking
yeah. And so the problem is though, when you pick a paint color, it has to be really neutral because you don't know what furniture somebody's bringing into that
about.
house.
Sure.
So it has to be something that literally goes with anything. And unfortunately, agreeable gray is just that color. It really goes with anything.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean being in the markets that we're in. We're not in a metropolitan market. So things in our market are maybe a few months or a year behind
Yes.
of where other trendier areas are.
Yes.
You know, like not to make fun, but like even when you say about stainless steel, it can you even buy anything else but stainless steel right now?
Well, we were hot on black stainless for a minute.
Yeah,
We thought black stainless was going to start
I
like a
read.
trend.
Yes, yes.
It really hasn't. People just like the same, but so it's really funny that you said that about the paint colors because when we did our very first flip, beige was still in and
Yep.
everybody was doing beige.
Yep.
However, gray was starting the trend. So we had made the decision that we were going to paint gray. And this was like before anybody was doing it. So at one point I had like 8 different samples of gray, painting them all on the walls, asking everybody's opinion. And I don't really think it was even about the paint, but my husband and I ended up in this huge blowout over the paint. But I think it was really just the whole stress of everything that was
Sure.
going on at that point. So much so that I slept on the couch that night over paint colors. Okay. We decided,
You the gray girl?
so no, we were both okay with gray, but we couldn't agree on which one
Oh,
because
oh.
what we didn't know, rookies at the time, we had done brown floors. And when you do brown and gray, a lot of times the gray pulls a blue color. So you have to really watch where you're
It
putting
does.
gray. It
It's funny
does.
she said
Yeah. So we were struggling to pick one and we weren't really agreeing on which one. And then it just got to the point where we were like, just paint it. Who cares? And we actually both ended up hating the color that we picked. Okay. But we paint the whole house and it was okay.
she's right.
Yeah. I mean, it was okay. We're like, okay,
She's right.
it's whatever. So we have this huge fight about it. Okay. Go to closing with the buyers that are buying the house. And I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, when are you guys moving in? Are you excited? Oh, yeah, we're excited. But we're going to repaint the whole house before we move in because we don't like the color. So
But
here
you had to tend to agree with them, right?
we're ready to get divorced over picking the paint in this house. And the buyers are going in and painting the whole house anyways.
Time out. Wait. Whose color won? You or your husband's?
Neither of us, because it was just, we finally just got
Okay.
frustrated and picked something.
All right. I was hoping somebody was really wrong.
No. So I don't even remember whose color it was. It was like we were just so annoyed with it at this point that we just picked something.
Yeah.
I am so glad though that happened on the very first house that we flipped because there was a lot of lessons in that. Number one, it doesn't matter what you pick because the buyer's either going to like it or not like it. So we never spent that much time and thought into a design or choice from that point forward. And number two, don't fight with it about, don't fight with each other about it because again, no one cares what you think. No one cares if you like it. Somebody else has to like it. So there were some big lessons in that moment that I'm actually glad happened that early because it's not that serious. So
Yeah, yeah, no, and I know it's funny what you're saying is we didn't, Kate, it was no, 3 offices ago. You weren't here, but same thing. I did brown floors and I did a gray. It looked freaking blue.
yeah.
If like a light blue, and I was losing my mind. I'm like, this is not the look I was going for. But I was in a rush.
Yeah.
You pick those swap, and we just kind of dealt with it. But I felt like I painted an entire office baby blue.
Yes.
And I was just like, what the heck did I do?
Yes. So designer tip for free. You
Go.
cannot put gray with brown. You can put grayish with
Grayish.
brown. And it
Grayish.
will look gray.
Okay. So
But
that
gray
is the tip.
and brown, it's gonna pull blues every time.
It's funny because just like you're talking, I think I want to say like early 2000, it was that gray butterscotch everybody had. So like even today when you walk into a house, okay, I know when they decorated this, and like when I go through flips now, oh, it's gray. Like I'm waiting. What do you think is going to be the next? What's our next thing? What color?
Uh, for walls, I don't know. So I've seen a lot of white
I just
coming
said a
back.
lot of people are going to white.
Yeah,
That's why I wondered if you were bold enough to go to whites.
I don't know, maybe. Again, it's not about me. Like I sit here and I say, "Oh, I don't like it," but it's not about me.
Yeah, but you
So
stage your properties too, don't you?
we hire a company that stages them.
Yeah, so like
Yeah,
I get it. You want it to look as good as possible, but
yeah,
I did hear the same thing. I see people going to white again.
it is. It's really coming back. And I don't know. I don't mind it. But again, then what are you doing with the trim and the doors at that point? Because white trim, white doors, white counters, white cabinets, it's going to look ridiculous.
I
So now you're
agree.
kind of changing everything. I'm real into the blue cabinets right now, the blue
Oh,
cabinetry, which again, it's so funny because this was yet another disagreement. Because again, my husband, he's real obsessed with not doing the same thing twice. He likes when we walk through the granite place now, it takes us all day because he's like, oh, we already did that, we already did that, we already did that. I'm like, you can honestly put the same granite in a house twice. Like, we don't have to keep reinventing it. But we did one of our rental properties in our commercial building in the blue cabinets. We painted them blue and it looked really nice. So then we had another kitchen we were renovating in the same building. And I said to him, just use that same blue. And he's like, no, we just did that. I'm not. So that green, there's a green that's kind of trending right now.
okay.
It's almost like a kind of like a seafoam green. It's like a real mute kind of green. So I said, oh God, fine, paint the cabinets in it. So the tenant that I'm putting in that property, he was asking me about the cabinets and he said, I saw that other one you did in that blue and I really liked that. I'm like, my husband, I like it too, but my husband didn't want to repeat the same
Did you
design.
let him know this?
Of course I did.
Okay, all right.
I said, if it were up to me, these cabinets would be blue. But he probably just gets bored. I mean, he's the one doing it, right?
Right, right.
I just get to come in and just say, "Oh, do this, do that," and then I leave, and then he's the one that has to stand there and do the same stupid thing over and
It
over
is
and
funny
over.
though that it is funny though that he really does have an opinion about those things. That I mean,
Yeah,
that isn't like normal either. I mean, it sounds like he likes to not say one-offs, but he wants everything to be, hey, I put time into this one separately. It's not like a
yes,
cookie cutter,
yes.
you know?
I think that's the thing. He's a good designer too. But a lot of times he defaults back to my opinion because he knows I know what the buyers like.
Yeah.
But he's very good at doing design also. And I don't even know, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I don't even know that he has used the same cabinet hardware twice.
Okay.
So the flip that we just
I would be so lazy. I would
Yeah,
just buy tons of the same stuff.
he found these really cool
He's
cabinetry.
like artistic.
He is, and I'm like, oh, I like those. I'm like, where'd you get those? You know, because he won't even do that twice.
Everyone's special. Each project is super special.
Yeah, and I think he puts that much time and effort into it to making it feel so different and special. And this house is its own thing. Then again, like going back to the people that are doing it wrong and they just so don't care what they're doing. It just infuriates us. People can be that reckless and careless with something that's so serious to
Right.
us.
Right. What have you where are you purchasing, if you could tell us, your kitchen cabinets? Where are the deals right now?
So I feel like there's not deals anywhere,
I
to be
know.
honest.
I know.
But again, it's that thing where like when you find somebody that you like and you work well with, you stick with that person. So believe it or not, we have a kitchen designer at Lowe's.
Okay.
He has done 90% of our kitchens and he knows what we like. He knows what we do. We trust that when we give him measurements and we talk to him about layout, because again, we're very particular about that, he finds the best way to lay everything out, things that we're happy with. And we've just worked with him for years. So we go back there over and over. As far as brand and which cabinet we pick, that changes sometimes
Sure.
based on the design. But I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of our cabinets have come out of Lowe's.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you're able to, just so people, because some people don't realize that you can buy from big box stores.
Mhm.
You can still buy quality and you can still make a profit doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even though it's a big box store, I mean, they're all locally staffed and managed.
Heck yeah.
So and I think a lot of people don't even know this, Lowe's has an entire contractor division. So the Lowe's for pros, that there's an entire section in the store that is for contractors, and they will assign you a person to sit with you and do one large
Mhm.
order and then give you a huge discount on it. So
That's good to know.
yeah, and they reach out to us directly. I mean, another store like that is Sherwin-Williams. We have our own reps at our own Sherwin-Williams that manage our accounts. And we
Yes.
have our own pricing, our own people that we call for help.
Yes.
They will deliver to our job. They will come to a job and tell us exactly which paint to use if we are confused about something. So I don't really rule out those big box stores. And I know people
No,
don't like to hear that because everybody likes, to involve local as much as you can, but the people who work there are local.
they are local, and
You know?
and even if you, I mean, let's face it, even if you use their installers, which I'm sure you probably don't,
No, we don't.
but those are local people too.
Right.
You are using local people. They
Right.
are not, they have high quality products. They do.
Right.
Yes, they do have a lower grade product for some,
Yes.
but they do sell everything.
Right.
I mean, I'm guessing, where do you do granite from right now?
So most of our granite is sourced out of Del Tile in
Okay.
Oxford.
Okay.
So we go there and choose the stone, and then different local installers have installed for us. I'd say the large majority of our flooring over the years has come out of Lumber Liquidators, which is now LL Flooring.
Yep.
But same thing, we have an account rep there. Like he knows us, he knows what we do, he knows exactly what needs to be done. So once you have aligned yourself with those people, it saves a lot of time because we don't want to shop around different things
Yeah.
constantly. That's a huge waste of our time. Even if you're trying to find a better deal, it's still a waste of our time. So for us to just have point people that we know we trust and that know what we do and who we are, it's so much easier.
And have you guys been bold during this time to try? I know I don't see it being trendy anymore, but for a while there, I had a couple contractor buddies that were pouring um, counters.
Concrete
You
counters.
guys ever tried that?
We haven't.
What do you think about this?
I like them.
You
I
do?
like the way they look. Yeah. But I think it's a specific taste. I
Okay.
don't think everybody's gonna like the way that they look. I will tell you, a lot of times we try something on our personal house before we bring it into somebody else's. And we were doing an outdoor kitchen 2 summers ago, and we were very close to doing the concrete. And I just kind of we pulled away from the thought at the
Mhm.
last minute because it was just too trendy. It was too unknown, to dig
Right,
into that.
right.
So yeah. So if something's super trendy or unknown, we tend to steer clear of it unless we've dabbled in it personally first.
Are we back into carpeting in these flips?
Um, we always carpet the bedrooms
Okay.
because that's what people like. I will tell you, I don't have a stitch of carpeting in my own house. It makes me
Same.
sick from this business. And even if somebody had newer ish carpet in a house, when we go into a house and pull out carpet, it makes me sick. So, no. So, personally, I do not have one piece of carpet in my house.
Okay.
We still put it in the bedrooms though, because it was still like a big complaint that people like carpet in the bedrooms. So
Uh,
have at it.
um, luxury vinyl,
Yeah,
wood floor,
luxury vinyl,
luxury vinyl.
luxury vinyl,
Is luxury
100%.
vinyl good enough for 150 to 200 to 400,000? Or when do you get into, do you feel that, hey, we're going to have to go a different route? What's that
Yeah.
price point?
So it depends. We have refinished hardwood floors before that are existing in a
Mhm.
house because the market really calls for that. I will never install wood floors from
Okay.
scratch
Okay.
because they're not durable.
Hmm.
They're just not. Um, Dogs are going to ruin them, kids are going to ruin them, water's going to ruin them. So I don't really know why somebody would want them other than they're a higher priced item to have in your house in general. I hate them. I'm
Definitely.
all about the luxury vinyl.
Now I'm going to ask you, and this is my, especially with what's going on with this whole real estate industry right now and the settlement. But what is it like being an agent, listing your own property?
Yeah.
How does that how does that fly? How does that work? How have you ended up in maybe a multiple offer situation with you also being an agent? Tell us some experiences that you've had.
So I won't do dual agency on any of our properties. So if I won't sell to a buyer, to like it's just
Smart.
even though it can be done ethically, what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
just don't do that. So I stay
Yeah.
away from that. I treat it the way I would treat any other deal. My husband is my client, even though we co-own the business. So of course I have to disclose that I own the property, but I am super meticulous, just like any seller who's required to fill out seller disclosures. Like I take that very seriously because
You have to,
yeah, I
because
do.
you're going to lose.
Right. And I do know everything that's going on in that property. So
Yeah.
you need to disclose what it is. I mean, why would you want it to come up 6 months from now that you didn't tell somebody something? That's so stupid.
It is stupid.
So I treat it like I would treat any other transaction. I negotiate it like I would negotiate for anybody else. Probably I'm willing to give probably more concessions than anybody else because I feel bad. So the last 4 properties that we've sold, I sold them to a VA buyer, FHA, FHA.
Okay. Wow. You
Okay.
didn't. Okay.
Yeah, because I think they deserve nice houses too. Like I'm being real altruistic right now, but they're getting outbid. They're getting, they can't compete with multiple offers. And I on every one of them, I think we gave seller assist because why wouldn't I? If I'm still getting the price that I want, like I'm not
Right.
greedy.
Right.
So, and I know that our houses are nice enough to pass all of those requirements. So I'm surely not worried about that. So, I mean, I try to just do it as ethically as possible, and I have a lot of care and regard for the people who purchase our house. I give them all our business card. I tell them if there's ever a problem, please call me. We know more about the house than anybody else.
Okay.
And there's been a time like a couple houses ago, something went wrong when they turned on the shower. There was a leak in one of the pipes. My husband was over there in an hour fixing it.
Okay.
We didn't have to do that,
Okay.
but of course you're going to.
So it's like you give like
Yeah.
almost an unwritten warranty to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's really nice. So, and also I guess maybe what I'm hearing too is it calculated also selling that house to the VA FHA buyer. Maybe they may appreciate the home more.
Mhm.
Maybe they may have less complaints. Maybe
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. We really haven't had issues, to be honest. If they were accidental. It wasn't like, oh, this was, hidden or a lie or something. Obviously, mistakes happen. And I tell people, we don't live in the house.
Sure.
So when you get in it and you start touching everything and doing everything, like the girl did a load of laundry and there was something wrong with the one hookup. Well, we weren't in the house doing laundry. So, but of course, we remedied it. So if you're not in it and using it like a consumer would, there are things that you're just not gonna really know until they happen.
So let's go back to somebody wants to buy a house and you're the one listing it and you say you don't practice dual agency. And what explaining dual agency to people is it's an agent or agency representing both the buyer and seller. Do you, if someone comes directly to you, do you have someone else write the offer or what do you do?
I would, yeah,
Okay.
I would.
Okay.
And we've done that in the past, and actually that person didn't end up winning the offer anyways. But yeah, I would never do dual agency on one of our personal properties. It's too sketchy. It's too
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's actually probably smart business practice by
Yeah.
you.
And there's no reason for me to. I mean, I don't need the commission. Like that's not where we're making the money on.
Right. That wasn't your goal.
Right. Right. It wasn't my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said in the very beginning, I think it was really smart how you were saying you can lose by the purchase of the property.
100%.
You know, I I don't know if you've done this. I've purchased a few properties that so-called flippers have tried to buy and they've thrown their hands up and they've given up.
Yes.
And those are some good deals that you can grab your hands on.
Yes. Our very first flip was purchased off of another investor who had walked away from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are the ones too that I really side eye because you have to be real careful if somebody else is walking away from it. There's a
Mhm.
reason.
Yeah. What is the reason?
So I scrutinize those more than any other deal, more than like, my grandma died and here's her house. Those houses are, the best taken care of. Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. What areas, how far have you guys gone? Where's where if there's anybody out there wanting to sell a house and we have an
Yeah.
investor here, what areas are you looking for?
So Lawrence County is our primary.
Okay.
However, we do Mercer, Beaver, Butler
Okay.
counties. I will not go into Allegheny County.
Okay.
That market is its own thing. It has its own people, its own rules. It's totally different.
That's smart. Yeah, learn your market.
Yeah.
You've learned that market, it seems like. Do you care do you care if it has a septic? Do you care if it has a well?
Yes.
You do. Do you want those things or will you not get
If
those
the
things?
numbers work,
Okay.
I would calculate the numbers as if it needs a new septic.
Okay.
So very rarely do those numbers work.
Yeah.
If I can't test it, I mean, if I can have an inspection, fine. But usually that's not the case. So I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean they're just so freaking expensive.
Well, and here's the thing, like I have seen again my buyers get into huge issues. For people who don't know, if you have a septic that fails and you just, live in a normal area, that's fine. They come still $25,000-$30,000. If you have a septic that fails and you live near a water source, the first call that has to be made is to the EPA. And let me tell you what happens when they get involved. So now you're going from a 2 to 3 month, $30,000 project to a 10 to 12 month, $50,000 to $60,000 project,
Okay.
because there are all kinds of entities that are involved at that point. So for me, I just really like to steer clear of them. I've had a buyer in that situation and they had to walk,
Okay.
because it was going to take 12 months to even try to fix it. And the seller actually pulled the house off the market. They were like, just forget it. I'm not selling it. I'm not spending 60 grand on a septic. So that was the end of that. I've had a buyer where we have found out, this is real common where I live in Lawrence County. A lot of times people inappropriately, and I'm sure you guys see this, inappropriately parceled out land, right? So like Grandpa Bob owned a farm, so Uncle Billy and Tim built a house, and all these people built houses on it, right? Well, guess what else they did? They tied all the wells and septics together into one. So I've had that come up. So I'm not a fan.
Right.
I'm not a fan. If I can avoid it, if there's another deal, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I don't blame you. And there's so many different systems that need to be approved in different areas,
Yes.
and they're not 15 grand.
No.
That's the problem.
No.
And we're talking, and just like you're talking, if you're talking $150 to $200,000 house, there's no room to throw
No.
20 grand for where the poop goes.
No.
You know, I mean,
Right. Well, and the other thing that people don't know also is there's regulations so sure, you can go buy a house with cash and nobody cares where the well and septic are. But guess what? When I go to resell it, anybody with a government backed loan, the well and septic can't be within so many feet of each other. It's
right.
100 or 150 based on the loan. So now I'm not paying attention to that and I go to resell it and I've screwed myself, because sure, the well and septic work, but they're not where they need to be on the property.
Right.
And a lot of times they're not. So again, like, it's just, for me, it's another layer of stress and complication. And if I can avoid it, I'd rather just not deal with a property that has those.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Any limitations of what your husband does in these homes? Like, is he doing roofs? Is he doing, or are you guys, what are you subbing out? What are you?
So that's a good question. So we sub out roofs and windows.
Okay.
That's it. He does everything
He does
else.
everything else.
Everything. He can do electric, plumbing. He does everything. Roofs, actually, to be honest, we were advised, and not that he would do roofs, because roofs, that's their own specialty. Like, there's just things where you just need to stay in your own lane.
Right.
There's roofers. That's who you hire to do a roof. But we were advised by our insurance company, because we have a general contracting license, that if you're doing more than 1 to 2 roofs a year, you have to be a roofer and get a roofer insurance policy, which is way different.
I bet you there's a lot of people out there that don't
I'm
know
sure
that, don't do that.
do that. So again, we try to be very by the book in what we're doing. So even if we wanted to do roofs, we couldn't, because we're not classified by that as our licensure and our insurance. And then windows, same kind of thing. We have a guy that does windows and he's just really good at it.
Yeah.
So let him do it,
Yeah.
because it's not something that we're interested
Vinyl, is that what you're using for the most part?
in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah, and he does a great job.
okay.
But otherwise, I'd say my husband is pretty much everything. We don't pour concrete. We don't pour and finish concrete. I'd say we have people that do that. But outside of that,
And how often do you do that?
very rarely.
Okay.
Like a patio needs replaced or something. But
HVAC your husband does too, or is
so he
that
doesn't do the installs. No.
okay?
He can do all the basic, like, kind of repair stuff. But as far as like when it needs a new one, no, we have people who do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another specialty.
Well, that's the thing. If somebody does just that for a living, like,
They're gonna
you
do it
should,
quicker than you.
yeah, and you should defer to that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It frees us up to keep doing. Like, if he had to stop and install a whole house of windows, like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It is amazing the whole crew they'll bring in to do
Yeah, it doesn't
something
make
like
any
that.
sense.
Do you guys buy these properties individually? Did you start an LLC? What should people be looking for out there that are thinking about flipping?
So there's again, like a lot of different people who do it different ways. We have an LLC that owns our properties.
Okay.
Always even debated if we should have separate LLCs, like one for the rentals and one for the flips. There are people who put everything in their name personally, and then they just carry a very large insurance umbrella policy to
Mhm.
cover themselves.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I was advised long ago, definitely not to be underinsured, but I was advised that people who are heavily insured are much more attractive to sue. So I was advised, because when I very first started, I actually went to buy $1 million umbrella policy.
That is
And
interesting.
I was advised, you look really enticing when you're carrying $1 million umbrella policy. An attorney is much more likely to take you on and go after you, knowing that you have something to give. So obviously, we're insured in everything we do the way that you're supposed to be, but I was advised to not go crazy, over insuring, over LLCing, like doing all this stuff that people do to try to protect themselves, because they said it actually makes you much more interesting.
That's an opinion. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense. So one LLC, same LLC that owns the rental properties and is doing the flips.
Correct.
Same LLC that the company that your husband is using to do renovations.
So it's our LLC is the parent company of everything, and then I have multiple DBAs underneath it.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's all filed under the same tax ID number.
Correct.
Oh, you just
Yeah.
run different DBAs.
Yes.
It's interesting seeing. I'm always curious on seeing what people do,
Right.
and
And I don't know what's right or
I
what's
don't
wrong.
think anybody does.
No, I don't either. And here's the thing, and this is what I was told by the guy who sold us the insurance, who I love, and he knows what he's doing. Um, he said there's insurance claims that get filed like when the tree falls through the roof. But he said if you are somebody who's on the up and up and you are doing things correctly and you are actually trying to do it right, that matters more than gross negligence. So because you want to make sure that you're like super. It's scary because we're in such a we're in such a litigious society.
Yeah,
It's like really
yeah,
crazy. But he said, really, it comes down to, were you being negligent or not?
right,
Were you trying to do the right thing or
right.
not? And we're always, I will tell you, we are always like obsessively trying to do the right thing. So at no point is anybody going to say this happened because you were negligent.
No, I say that to people all the time. Like, you're setting these things up so you can be negligent. Is that what you're telling me? You're
Right,
not going to try. No, like,
right,
there's no excuse for negligent. There's no waiver
right,
that can be signed that does not absolve you from being negligent.
right.
So yeah, no, that's actually really good advice.
Yeah.
It's really good advice. So I know you guys just sold a flip,
Mhm. It closes Friday. So one that closes Friday, and then we just bought one
and
last week.
when is this? Where is the new one going to be? Tell
So
us.
it's actually in Beaver. It's actually right down the street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all you're getting though. I'm not telling you else
When
because
when is it going to be ready?
um probably this one will take maybe 3 months,
Oh, that's not
maybe
bad.
4 months.
Okay, 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Good market.
Yeah, I mean, I love the area. I know pretty quickly. I feel like I either vibe with the house or I don't. And I felt like this house was cool. I really liked it. And it needs help. It needs a lot of help. But it's such a great area.
Yeah.
So I was like, this market we haven't been down this way. We haven't done anything.
I think you'll do well in this market. I do. It's hard to buy in this market though.
Yes.
It's hard to buy right down here in Beaver. So I mean,
Yes. And
you've
this was
done
an
the
off
numbers and
market.
yeah,
Yeah. And it was really sweet, to be honest. This one that we bought, because it was technically kind of an estate. And the gentleman who passed was a real estate investor. And it was his daughter that sold it to us, and they kind of had like a family business, and they had had a lot of people like reach out to them and try to, but she actually liked that we were a family owned business and that we all work together, and my son works for us, and that kind of like, tugged at her heartstrings because that's what they were. So she was very
Okay.
excited to give it to somebody that she felt was going to carry the tradition. Yeah.
Good.
So we're excited to bring them back and
Well,
show it to them.
we're excited. We hope that we get to close it when you sell it for a
Yes.
big number and we get to
Yeah.
write you a check. I know. I it, I'm just glad to hear somebody regurgitate that there's not millions of dollars to be made
No.
by this
And
in
it's
our
because
area.
you're doing it wrong. You're cutting corners.
You're cutting
You're
corners,
doing
right?
it wrong.
Right. But it's what I like about it is you're actually participating in real estate, and it's not just the service side of real estate. Like when you sell a house, like literally you can leave and you can say, we we did that.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard in our industry because we don't have widgets normally that we make. And you can say, hey, I made that better.
Yeah.
I don't know why I care about those things, but I
Well,
think
I do.
we've been in the service
Yeah.
industry so long that I wish there were more success stories to show that we did something. We
Yeah.
created something.
It's so fun to drive around and drive past our properties. I look, I mean, every time, it's been years on some of them, and I still look to see what they've done. And
Hopefully nobody's disrespected them or made them worse.
no,
That's good.
no, I'd say for the most part,
So you feel good about
a
that.
lot of people have made them even better.
That's great. That is
Yeah,
great. That is great.
it is, and it makes me excited for them
Yeah.
that they like it that much. You know.
Well, I'm hoping that 2024 is going to be a great year for all of us. Hopefully this flip that you're doing that you can't tell us anything about because you're being stingy about the information. I hope it goes well, but I hope you find others. Um, I hope that we're in a market that there's still properties that there's enough room for you to improve them.
Yeah.
And they don't get gobbled up by these out of state, foreign even investors that we
Yeah.
have that aren't doing things right.
No,
You know?
they're
So,
just hiring the cheapest.
right.
Some of the stuff I see.
And we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. We have seen it. Well, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you guys.
I hope.
For hanging out with you guys.
Well, we love having you here. So, all right. Well, talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.